Do you really need to give up comfort for concealability? Let's talk about it. So the first point we're going to talk about is the geometry of concealment. Now, the main point here is that we're trying to avoid printing, which is just different aspects of the gun, pushing out our clothing and making it more visible, hey, that this person here who is concealed carrying is carrying a gun. Goal of concealment is to not have other people know that. So what we can do with that is we need to determine where on our body that's going to be less likely to happen. For a lot of people, that is appendix carry. Main reason being there is you have a large, for the most part, flatter area. I'm a little bit more rotundous, but flatter area for that gun to sit and be able to position and work that a little bit more easily. That's not to say that hip carry, not 6 o'clock carry, but hip carry isn't a bad choice either. You can get amazing results out of both. Now, what we can do for that is we can look at kind of tools here to help us with that. So one tool we can look at is the mod wing or any sort of concealment claw. What that is doing is that is pressing off your belt and allowing the grip, which is the most common item to print or a common part of your gun to print. It's pushing off your belt and pushing that grip closer into your body. So the mod wing has a few different pieces and designs to kind of adjust that, and there are plenty of other design types of claws out there or wings, concealment wings or claws that help with that and solve that issue for you. The other two we can look at kind of solves 3 different problems. One, mainly what we're talking about here, is the concealment aspect, where it pushes off your body, the muzzle end of the gun, and allows that back end of the gun, where your red dot typically is, or hammer or whatever, into your body. And that allows that gun to not be able to flop out as easily, which brings us to the second point, which is it's a safety thing. It allows that gun to not be pointed at you, especially when you are reholstering. And the third point being comfort. Now, most wedges are made out of a type of neoprene foam. Depends on the thickness or the density of the foam. Most of the time, for me at least, I like firmer foam that ends up being a little bit more comfortable for me. But of course, you'll have to experiment with that and see what works best for you. Of course, that means you'll have to find a holster that supports proper cant and height. So we want to make sure that this stays in the spot we want it to be at. So after I find out on my body whether I like appendix or hip carry, whichever one I like, I need to stay in that position. I don't need it wandering around. A, because if I have to pull the gun, I want to know where that is at all times. But B, it's not wandering into places that are going to make it uncomfortable for me to carry. On top of that cant, I need to make sure that it's not going too high up, it's not flopping out, it's not burying itself into my pants line to where now I have to fight to get the gun. I want it to stay exactly where it is and in the position that I want it, where I find that it's easiest for me to draw. Point number 2 is that we need to be choosing the right gear. So what I mean by that is that we don't buy crappy holsters. We want to get good holsters that do all of the important things for us without us having to force it to do it. So what we're looking for here is that it has a good retention. So good firm retention, that gun's not coming out of there. I typically carry mine with about a smidge of retention. It's not flopping out anytime soon, even with a full mag, but in that same sense, I'm not fighting it to get it out of the holster. I couldn't even fake that. It's just boop, right out, ready to go. The other thing I'm looking for it to do is to make sure that it is safe to carry. So I can't access that trigger, even if I wanted to, even with that little extra gap. We want it to distribute its weight evenly. Now, this is also achieved with the claw and the concealment wedge. We want it to distribute its weight evenly. So the design of the holster matters as well, and how it feels when we carry it. This is why a majority of concealed carriers who've been at it for a while have a box of shame where all of their bad holsters go to die and hide in the closet forever. So it also needs to be able to allow you to get a good grip on the gun. For a lot of trainers, they'll want you to get a full firing grip on the gun like such. However, the way I practice it, I just need you to be able to get those 3 bottom fingers onto the grip without there being any issues with your holster. Cutting you up or making your fingers bleed by the end of the day. If that's happening, that's kind of against the whole comfort idea, which is also stopping you from training. So we want to make sure that you continue training, because you need to be able to know what your draw to first shot is, or draw to first accurate shot is. Not going to do that if every time you go for the holster or every time you go for the gun, your fingers are bleeding by the end of the training day. So this is why systems like the Enigma are really popular, because the Enigma is just this chassis system here. It's not the actual holster, though this KSG holster is amazing, and I'm a big fan of them. But this chassis system like the Enigma, you don't need a belt at all. You can just go firmly off this guy. I could go skinny dipping with my gun on me if I wanted to with this, which is a horrible image to give out on the internet. But if you see, I've customized mine a little bit. They have really good materials. I'm just a goober who can't leave anything alone. But chassis systems like this are a really great way to get around even some like clothing issues, where maybe you can only wear a specific type of clothing and it's not friendly to regular holsters that require a belt to wear. So for ladies, typically the Enigma is a phenomenal choice for them to get around a lot of clothing disparities or clothing issues that do not allow them to conceal carry on a regular basis. Which brings us to point number 3, which is you need to have a sturdy concealed carry belt or purpose-built belt for concealed carry. A flimsy belt is going to make that gun or your holster flop around a lot. On top of that, your belt clips won't necessarily catch the belt, which when you go to pull that gun, guess who's coming with it? So you need to have a good purpose-built belt for that concealed carry, or like I mentioned before, get yourself an Enigma. Point 3 has to do with your clothing. Now, I'm not saying you have to do a complete wardrobe overhaul. However, darker clothing or patterns can help break up that printing so it's not as obvious or completely hides it just in itself. Or what you can do is add layers to your concealment, so that way, what a lot of people do is, during winter seasons like this, a jacket works perfectly fine, or they'll take a button-up shirt, unbutton the shirt, and if they carry hip style or in the hip position, that'll help completely hide the gun from being shown. Another thing you can do is use looser clothing. So not necessarily skin tight clothing, but looser clothing will help kind of make make that printing a little bit more vague and not as easily spottable. So our final point is that we want to make sure that you're testing and you're training with your gear and you're experimenting all the way along. You got to see what works best for you, where that gun rides best for you, what tools or what parts work best to help with that concealment. It's all based off of what your preferences are. You can get good concealment and comfort out of your carry, but you have to put in a little bit of work. What works best for me doesn't necessarily work best for you. That's why on our website with our custom-made holsters, we give you options, as many options as we can at one point in time. It's also why we have a custom order sheet, so that way you can put in, if you already know what you like out of a holster, you can put in exactly what you want. And we try our best to fulfill those orders to your exact specifications. The main takeaway here, guys, is that we want our concealed carry system, however we decide to do it, to completely disappear into our lifestyle. We don't want it to be a prominent poking factor of, hey, remember me, hey, adjust me. We want it to be completely disappearing, almost to the point where we forget that we're even carrying. If we're constantly fidgeting with it, if we're constantly uncomfortable with it, if we're constantly saying, hey, I'm printing, you're going to be less likely to carry that gun. You're going to be less likely to keep training with that firearm in the holster and training your daily concealed carry, building up that lifestyle. We want to make sure that it is as comfortable as we can get it and as concealable as we can get it, so that way you'll carry more often, and that way you'll be able to defend yourself if the time comes that you need to be using that firearm. Hey guys, if you like this video, leave a like below. Share your thoughts on the subject. We'd love to hear from you. Also, if you are looking for custom holsters, feel free to visit us at WarriorMonkClasses.com and our shop page. We have Falls River Tactical. That is our holster company where we can make custom holsters just for you. We also put on a workshop that has to deal specifically with this topic here. Now, this is a really broke down, shortened aspect of that. It's a 2-hour workshop, fairly cheap to get in. We try to put those on at least once a month. Thank you guys, and have a great day.